Josh, Aaron Rodgers trying to win the game, and your defense steps up big. Taylor Rapp all night, and Taron Johnson coming off of injury. What can you say about the job they did?
Oh, man, we found a way to win. Got sloppy there in the second half. Got to find a way to put more points on the board, but it was a team victory. We'll take them how we get them, and 4-2.
Yes, Josh Allen has it right. It was not pretty, but the Bills don't care about style points. They care about being in first place in the AFC East, which they are after 6 games, after a 23-20 win over the New York Jets at MetLife Stadium, a game where first place was on the line, but you come out of the game thinking that the AFC East is the same as it ever was post-Tom Brady. It's the Bills' division to lose, and it's the Jets, as always, looking up at a big brother. It just happens to be a different big brother, and it is Josh Allen. Dan Hanzus with Marc Sessler. Heat in that call. Sessdog, gruesome watch in some ways this game. Yes, it was a tightly contested game, back and forth, but 22 penalties for 204 yards, I suspect, is how many people will remember this game. But ultimately, it is the Bills who get out of there with a win and kind of reset themselves with the road ahead.
Well, I think they saved their season. There's different worlds of this, like the saving their season now. You come off of bad losses to the Ravens, to the Texans, where we lost belief in you. After thinking, I thought, they're one of the best offenses in the league. They'd scored 34 points against the Cardinals, 31 against the Dolphins, 47 against the Jaguars, and then you fall in those 2 straight matches. So tonight, it's it was sloppy. The Bills needed multiple total gaffes by the Jets from a field goal angle, from a penalty angle, from a turnover angle, and they got it. And it wasn't pretty, and that's okay. But they're 4-2, and they come out of it, and that's sort of what I feel like the Josh Allen Bills and the Sean McDermott Bills of the last couple of years are we're going to get into these holes. Most of you are going to start writing think pieces about how we might be done, we might be over. You can stop believing in us, and then we dig our way out. I'm not sure tonight builds my belief in an immense way around that, because you encountered a Jets team that it is in a dark place and a tough place and going through a lot. But it was ugly. They got out of it. And here are the Bills. They're 4-2. Do I believe in them? I don't know. But I do believe in the fact that they found a way to close the game, but also the Jets closed the game on themselves.
Yeah, I thought it was an incomplete game, to be kind, toward the Bills against a team that couldn't get out of its own way in multiple ways. I thought, the game, what it came down to was, as you mentioned, Greg Zuerlein misses 2 field goals in this game, but the Bills had trouble kicking as well and swirling wins at the Meadowlands tonight. And but after the Bills go ahead on the short field goal, and the Jets once again, Mike Williams, thanks for coming, dude, but how about we stay on our feet and make a play? And once again, you're watching this game, you're thinking, oh, Devontae Adams, it would be nice to get him in the building, but that's beside the point. That essentially, that 3rd and long interception was an arm punt by Rodgers, and they have the Bills have the ball 1st and 10 at the Buffalo 18 with 1:52 to play, and I'm watching the game with my 2 sons, and I'm explaining the nuance of the situation. The Jets have 3 timeouts. The Bills obviously want to burn those timeouts, and they're going to run the ball twice, which they do. The first one for 5 yards, the next one for next to nothing, and then it's 3rd down, and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm the Bills, am I going to give the ball again to my backup running back and then hope for the best on a day where Aaron Rodgers has already thrown a Hail Mary touchdown? Or am I going to let Josh Allen win the game? And it's frustrating as a Jets fan to know, and I texted you guys before the play happened, this is a Josh Allen play. There's no way this ends with them just running into the line. And it was a designed run, and the Jets were undisciplined, as they've been for much of the season, and don't contain the edge, and he easily picks up the 1st down. Game over. So good job by Sean McDermott and the Bills for withstanding the storm that came with that Hail Mary at the end of the half. But ultimately, it was the Jets that continue to just shoot themselves in the foot. And I mentioned that my sons were watching this game, and this was a crazy night in my house, Mark. This was, since I've been in LA, I don't think there's been a bigger sports night in my house, because you had Game 1 of the American League Championship Series, and it's the Yankees and the Guardians. So I have that on the big TV. And then this, you really have to go back to maybe week 17 of 2015, Jets, ironically, against the Bills, or coincidentally, up in Orchard Park when Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 3 interceptions to knock them out of the playoffs, their only winning season in the last 13 years. That was probably the biggest game since then because of everything that had happened around the Jets. And last year, I was thinking about this game as I was, putting the kids to bed. My wife's out of town, so it's just like a lot going on, Sestock.
I get that. She's busy and she's successful, so that's a good thing.
So it's just me and the boys, and I get them into bed. I had promised them, by the way, after the Yankees completed their 5-2 win, about a half hour, 40 minutes before the Monday night game ends because of all the penalties, I said, hey, listen, like they have this whole thing about Yes Day. They love Yes Day. Do you know what Yes Day is? It's a thing. Kids are super into it.
I mean, I feel like I've experienced my own Yes Days, but it's probably not what you're referring to.
All right. Yes Day is a thing where kids get to do whatever they want. The parents have to go along with it. I said, listen, if the Jets and the Yankees win tonight, I'll give you guys a Yes Day on Friday. I'll pick you up half day at school, and we'll do something fun. So now, mistake, by the way, because now I've drawn them into the spider webs of Jet fandom, and I didn't realize I was doing it at the time. I was over my skis a little bit. But anyway, last year, week 1 for Jets fans, it was a stomach punch that I don't wish upon anyone, especially when that anyone is a fan base is downtrodden and starved for joy as Jets fans. So I was angry, and we were there. We did the show that night, Mark. I was angry and hurt and bewildered that the season had been taken from us after 4 snaps, and whether or not that Jets team was going to do anything is beside the point. It was that hope was taken away, and for once, it wasn't even the Jets' fault. It was just like it was decided. The fates simply decided it was time for a new wrinkle of misery for the Jets. But this season, Mark, this season is different because I feel like this is more like the last 13 years and really the last 50 years if you want to start combing through it, where it's just a reminder that, while fate took something away last year, the Jets now with their fans, they take and 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 they don't give anything. And I'm just so sick of living this role as a Jet fan. Like we don't even get the Bisaccia bump, right? Let alone a field goal hitting the upright and going through. We don't get that, but we don't even get the Bisaccia bump. We get Jeff Ulrich taken over, and we get a bad job by the team. The team looked bad. I didn't think the team was good on defense. I thought obviously with all the penalties, it was a sloppy game all around. And it's just a take and the take and the take, and it gives nothing, Mark. And I've reached this point as a fan where it's like I found myself, and maybe it was because I watched the Yankees, who have given me joy in my life, on the same night where I was just like, I'm just sick of this. Like I'm like, how much longer do I have to just take the abuse as a fan without having anything positive come out of this relationship? And I think, Mark, you've been in these relationships. I think the one that you bring up, you were trapped in Arizona for 2 years in an unhealthy relationship. Like at a certain point, I feel like you need to take an internal audit when you find yourself in this type of relationship. And I feel like that's where I am right now, which is not to say that I'm like quitting being a Jets fan or anything, but like I am reaching the point or getting close to the point where like I want to take a step back and be like, until you could like figure your shit out, like I'm sick of being on the front lines of this carnage and dealing with one disappointment after the next, because you can't just take and take and take and take and never give. And that's what this relationship has turned into. So I feel bad that I dragged my kids into it, and they went to bed sad because I had dangled this carrot inadvertently that connected to the Jets doing something well. But it's just like, I'm sick of it. I'm just sick of it, Sessdog. And I don't know, and I know so many Jets fans feel exactly the same way, but we keep filling that stadium and we keep on believing that something good could come out of all this. But we're reaching a point, especially coming off this week and the dysfunction that just permeates from ownership down, for them to follow up with this sloppy, ugly, like depressing performance. I'm just, like, I'm not saying I'm going full Rob Lowe, Well, maybe I am. Maybe I am. Maybe I am, Mark.
Maybe you buy that. Maybe that's the next.
Maybe until this partner, Mark, this unhealthy relationship I'm in right now, and I have been in my whole life, until they get their shit together, I'm going to take a step back, and you work on you, and then get back to me when you have your life in order, because your house is not in order. Your house is chaos, and I'm sick of having a front row seat for all of it.
Well,
I'm going full low, bro.
No, I respect what you have said. I think it's a moment of honesty, and it's like it's a bit of a breaking point, and I understand that. Like, I mean, I can relate to the concept of a football team that decides to abuse you. We don't support abusive relationships in general or at all. Not in general or at all. But like, we understand that from a sports thing. It's like, here's the problem. This team has disrupted your relationship between you and your father. You and your father. But then also you and your children. So it's generational. We're talking about three generations of human beings that are like, what are we doing here? Like, why are we spending our time in this? And like, if anything, when we root for a sports team, like it feels to us as Jets fans, Browns fans, you got a Titans fan here too. It's like, it feels almost too much to ask that it brings us joy. It's like, that's too much to ask. Can you be competent? That's too much to ask. Your job as a sports team on one level is to be creative, to create something. You're creating something every time you go out and face an opponent. You've spent all week creating your game plan. And the only thing these teams can do, but let's focus on the Jets. The Jets are creating total malaise and problems. And it seems to happen in the last couple of years in this paradigm with Aaron Rodgers in prime time specifically. And it doesn't matter. Like, a bunch of their players had nice nights, but it's like the Jets find a way to do certain things that spoil your evening, and you are running out of time as a human being to hitch your existence to this wagon. So I'm with you, Dan, on this front. Like, I'm not saying jump ship, but I like, your frustration resonates, I think, with anyone that has done anything that it just continues to fail. We're not here just to and also kids don't like losers, so you're trying to bring your kids into this, please.
My kids, because they know me and it's just a natural part of the family dynamic, they're curious about this team that I care so much about, but they're not diehards, and it helps that they're 3,000 miles away from where the team plays. And as I've said on the show before, the old show, and I'm saying it again, like, I have not pushed my kids into Jets fandom, and perhaps because we're working most Sundays, like, they're not as like attached to the product as I was when I was their age, and that's good. And they're on their own journey. It would have been a fun night to get 2 W's for our local teams, but it's just not in the cards with this team, and that's ultimately what it's about. It's just like, I used to give Wes a hard time all the time about the Bengals, and it was because I thought, and I still believe, like, Wes grew up working class, like a working class Catholic family on the west side of Cincinnati, and the Bengals are in your blood. And like, I never understood how Wes was able to just look at the dysfunction of the franchise, work up the dossier, and walk away, and then not even think about coming back when something as special as Joe Burrow came in the building, who was just on the rise when Wes got sick. Wes didn't get to see Burrow in the Super Bowl and all that, but right. So I'm not. But for me, like, it's not leaving the Jets fandom, but it's like, I feel at a place where it's like, I want to take a step back because I'm just so sick of it. I'm so sick of
I get it.
these games. I'm so sick of watching the same game over and over and over. And that's not taking anything away from the players like Taylor Rapp of the Bills, who made so many big plays in this game, and Buffalo's ability to close the door on games that the Jets can't. Like, I'm not looking for anybody's pity. I'm just saying we're talking about this game right after it's over, and I'm just like, I'm sick of this shit. And there's so many Jets fans that feel the same way, and I don't know what's going to finally change it. Maybe it's ownership. Maybe we get our own Burrow down the road. But until any of that happens, I watched the game just from a pure game standpoint, Mark. I think the problem with this Jets team is that it's not actually that good. Like, they have a good but not great defense. They have an average offense at best, and then they're not coached well, and we're going to give Ulrich the benefit of the doubt, but they're not coached extremely well, and you put all that together, and that's like a kind of a middling team, and I think that's what this team is going to end up being now that we've gotten this sample. I think they're a 7 to 9 win team if everything breaks right, and that's who they are, but it's like coming to terms with that when there was so much hope and optimism leading into this season and last season. Like that's part of this too. Like it's about coming to terms with the Jets are a mediocre team, and you're just kind of dealing with that aftermath when you were hoping to be a Super Bowl team, but it just wasn't in the cards.
Yeah, I think that's the concern because and now the owner has amped up the level of challenge because you've changed the staff. Everyone inside that building is doing what they were doing before with new responsibilities. And that's why when I look at both of these teams, the Bills I give credit to. You have no Von Miller right now. Ed Oliver's out of the mix. You did not have James Cook tonight, who is I think the
Ray
centerpiece.
Davis.
Yeah, exactly.
How about that? 150 yards of total offense.
Exactly. Like that, to me, the ability to come out and have someone perform the way they did at that position tonight was a big part of it. The Bills have been a team that's figuring out who they are on offense, but they're missing guys all over the place, and they were able to get through it. Like, winning ugly is great. Losing ugly the way the Jets did, where it's like, wait a minute, in a season where kickers are nailing 58 and 59-yard field goals. And it was a windy, weather doused evening. So that is part of it. But that just played into it. But the Bills found a way out of this whole thing. I thought the officiating tonight was a disaster. Like, we always text during these games. Like, there was a roughing the passer call that I thought was one of the worst I've seen. And these happen all the time, but it's just like, this stuff has too much impact on the game. You got to find a way to better fit. There were two of them, but even Aaron Rodgers said that the one on him was a disastrous call, and it's like this stuff.
Let's listen to that.
Yeah,
it seemed a little ridiculous. Some of them seemed really bad, including the roughing the passer on me. That's not roughing the passer. I was about to play sarcastic the ball if we're going to call those things. And I thought the one on Kinlaw was not roughing the passer either. So,
yeah, that goes back to what we've been talking about forever, which is if we can, like on the Garrett Wilson touchdown in the first half, if officials upstairs can quickly correct an officiating mistake on a touchdown, how are we not correcting those plays? That's I think the Jets got 3 points out of that bogus call on Rodgers, and it's just so frustrating. And then, the play at the end where the Jets were kind of in freefall mode and lost anyway, but where Rodgers' arm is going forward, but he's not throwing the ball, and then it kind of falls out of his hand. And I thought that was just crazy too, Mark, because not only did they not give the Bills possession of the ball, they recovered the loose ball. I don't even know how this works, but they do. That is something they checked upstairs and changed it from fumble to incomplete pass. And then Sean McDermott's like, hey, what happened? And the game stops so the officials can explain to the Bills why that happened. Like, you could just stop a game to talk to the officials about a play that happened. Don't you have to use a timeout or something there? It just was like a sloppy the whole game was pretty sloppy in terms of the presentation to the audience, put it that way.
It was. It's I don't know. I think let's be real with our show. It's like we're a Jets-centric show on one level, and it is hopes and aspirations have been affected here. the Bills ride on for another day, but they've got a lot to figure out. But they were missing a ton of people today, so I'm impressed with what they pulled off. On the road in this situation, missing the people that they were missing, and the Jets have to work their way out of this. I think Ulbrich is I think they're basically saying, look, if you're ownership, we're testing him to be the head coach. I think it was a situation where it's we want him to be the head coach. We figured that out over the last year plus. And I kind of even felt back during Hard Knocks, it was he certainly feels that way. So this may be an audition for that. Tonight was not an acid test on that level, but I will say one thing, outside of the game, there was the footage of him beforehand, coming into the stadium, embracing, holding hands with Jets fans. He seems to get it. And I thought even his pregame interview, his demeanor and who he is, maybe there's something to pull from that. Maybe what is happening now is not where we are.
How about we play a good game? How about we play a good game?
No, but I'm being too hopeful. I don't know. But no, I think he's no. But also, you're asking a lot. We don't even know.
No, I'm not making any judgments on Ulrich after one game. But
I'm just saying. I texted you at one point. Maybe you stumbled into because the only way that bad teams that we follow can get on it, you stumble into something. You don't go source it. You stumble into it. Have they stumbled into a good coach? We'll see. I'm not saying that happened tonight, but maybe
I guess all I could say to that is, one game in, it was a dog shit performance by the team. So the good thing for Ulrich is that it's a long runway that he gets here, and he gets an audition. And based on what we had heard from Connor Orr, he's well regarded both inside the building and outside amongst the Shanahan coaching tree. So he's going to get a chance. And Todd Downing taking over for Nathaniel Hackett was absolutely an upgrade, even though they didn't obviously score a ton of points. They got it in the red zone a bunch. Breece Hall all of a sudden looked like a running back again. That was obviously maybe a year too late getting Hackett out of the play calling role, but better late than never. All right. I'm just saying, it's not that I'm not a Jets fan anymore, Mark. I am Rob Lowe right now. And I reserve the right as someone who has eaten the shit for 35 years to take a step back.
Yeah.
And if the Jets can show me at some point this year that they have their stuff together and they're in a healthy place internally, I will step back into the relationship. But right now, we are on a timeout.
Well, I feel like I spent the last season or two suggesting similar concepts. We're like two divorced wives having glasses of white wine.
I'm not divorced. I'm not divorced.
Okay, well. We're not unlike that. We've got similar things to complain.
I've taken a step back.
Yeah.
If you want to go out and get some Mexican food together and have a couple of margaritas and dump on our significant SOs, we can. But I want you to know that I believe this is a relationship worth salvaging. But right now, I'm taking a step back.
I'd be there to support you at a Mexican restaurant on a Friday at 4 p.m. A little happy hour.
I know you would be.
I would be.
I knew you would be.
Yeah.
And Justin, you're invited too, as long as you got that insane quarterback starting games for you.
By the way, we didn't talk about this yesterday, but Justin's quarterback, Will Levis, one of the most insane things that happened on Sunday is him barreling out of bounds and taking out a ball boy's knees, and then also.
It was a ball man.
It was a ball man.
Destroying his leg. Yeah.
It was a ball man. But the capper to the ball man was that unlike some players that understand that they just deeply change someone's life for the next year and a half, Will Levis just gets up and runs away. By the way,
we don't know. Listen, Sessler.
No, he did. But
we don't know.
Maybe he visited him. He could have visited the person later. That's fair. I don't know.
I'm sure Justin actually has the entire breakdown.
He does.
Justin, what happened after the game with Mr. Mayonnaise himself? Did he approach the ball man?
That's actually a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. I know that the ball man, is named Brian Robb. He was a sideline staffer who's been with the Titans for over 20 years. He was taken to the hospital in the middle of the game for surgery on his leg.
Well,
they reported during the game that he is in good spirits. He gave a thumbs up as he was being carted off the
good
field.
Spirits, good.
Good spirits.
As his right leg is turned into an accordion that would make Aidan Hutchinson squirm.
How do we know that he's in good spirits, by the way? That sounds like not a bunch.
Yeah, that sounds totally made
nonsensical.
up. That sounds like PR Central, Titans PR Central from the Gravedigger.
Yeah, I don't know. All I know is that we three cheer for teams who are always the underdog. So landing with underdog was the perfect home for Heed to Call.
Justin, you're the best, bud.
Well, you sewed that up well.
Does that count as the Will Levis meme of the week, destroying a man's
Was
leg?
that our ad? Was that our ad read?
When Will Levis was scored through this touchdown pass, he was doing like Spider-Man celebrations, and
Yeah, we don't need to do that, Will.
That was going viral. And then yes, the guy being carted off was counted by some on Twitter as the Will Levis meme of the week.
Do you think Hellman's is having that buyer's remorse about their national ad campaign?
Multiple meetings, multiple corporate meetings between,
Remember what happened with Baker, too? Baker's had so many lives.
Yep.
But he was on progressive commercials, legitimately every commercial break of every game, as his career was going in the toilet and he was like getting benched by the Browns. And I feel like they had to pivot out of that at some point, Justin. And we're not, I don't know how we got on Titans Corner, but here we are.
Mark brought it up.
Hellman's is going to have to, they're going to have to pivot. They're going to have to pivot out of this ad campaign.
Yeah, well, if you remember, Baker came out and said, like, I've been spending too much time doing ads, and he made, like, a declaration before the season started that he wasn't going to do ads anymore. And now he's leading the league in touchdown passes. He's second in passer rating. All Will Levis has to do to become a great quarterback is stop
There he is.
doing ad spots.
Mr. Optimism on a Monday night, Mark.
No, I'm out. I'm out on the Levis experience.
All right, let's take a break, and we'll do a quick little news recap. Speaking of Aidan Hutchinson, right after this.
Who likes touchdowns? I know I do. On Underdog, playing touchdowns just got even better. Introducing Red Zone Rush, a new way to play touchdowns all October long. Just head to the Underdog app, tap Play Now on Red Zone Rush in your Pick'em lobby, and swipe right to add touchdowns. Swipe left to skip. It's like a dating app, but just for touchdowns. Plus, every Red Zone Rush entry automatically receives a profit boost, so sign up with the code HTC and receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit in the Underdog app for our U.S. audience only.
All right, we are back. How about some news?
I wouldn't be a hypothetical in that matter. Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm not going to hypothetical with you about when I'd consider coaching change in light of the timing we're sitting here with. I'm not at all.
Jera on Mike McCarthy's job security. And, I'm not saying that Cowboys fans have a case, that is in line with Jets fans or Browns fans or Titans fans. But if you want to go full Rob Lowe, Cowboys fans, until Jera is, flushed out, as Mark says, you could do that. And we could have you could come to the Mexican cantina as well. How about that, Mark?
I'd agree, because I think there's different layers and levels of I root for a team that is celebrated, but they also stumble. And we've got an owner, if you're a Cowboys fan, that you get 4 or 5 whiskeys into him, and who knows what he's going to say. And now, while I find that enjoyable, that also works at a Mexican restaurant. So come on down and hang out with us.
And again, Mark, I'm on a break.
We were on
now,
a break.
That's different.
I know, but that's what
I have not filed any paperwork. I haven't legally separated. I'm on a break, and I'm watching.
But I'm the kind of that's where, as your friend, I get, I understand, and I would just talk with you and listen to you, and you can talk through it.
Right.
Get a little heightened on some margaritas, and we'll figure it out.
I like it. Maybe we Thelma and Louise right over the ridge together.
Well, Justin's with us too, so
Justin can hop in the back seat. All right. Anyway, real quick, a little addendum to all that Jets talk. Haason Reddick, who But by the way, Gravedigger, I love
this is
you,
another
bud.
delightful chapter.
Gravedigger, after Michael Clemens loses contain and the game's over, I got Gravedigger firing off texts. Man, you think if Haason Reddick was there, maybe he makes that play? I was like, Christ, Justin, I know you mean well, but come
Justin
on, bud.
specializes in that specific type of text. Like, oh,
I need
is
that,
someone
Justin?
is someone stabbing you and twisting a knife into some part
Justin,
of your
if you want to
body?
get in
Let
the
me
Thelma and
text.
Louise car with Mark and I, we can't be sending off well, maybe if Haason was there. It wasn't even taunting. It wasn't just, there's not a bad bone in Justin's body except for the one that broke through his skin. It's just like, we didn't need it. And it happened anyway, and we move forward.
It was sort of like they're 2-4, but they were really competitive against the Bills. And imagine if they had this big time pass rusher on the edge.
Do you not
Maybe
see
they
why
win
that's
this
annoying?
game.
Like, do you not see why that is ponderous?
Actually,
to
I could
us?
hear
Or to-
all the listeners
especially-
of our show right now slapping their forehead at the same time.
Right. Tedious,
Anyway.
unneeded, unrewarding.
Justin, if
I
you weren't
apologize.
such a beautiful person and a fine producer, maybe I would have been mad, but you get the pass. You always get the pass. Haason Reddick got fired by his agency, and now he's hired agent Drew Rosenhaus as his new agent, and he will meet with the Jets is supposed to meet before the game tonight to begin, quote, the process of resolving the situation and ending the holdout. That's from Rap Sheet. And I don't know, it's like close to $10 million or something in that range at this point that Reddick has coughed up, and it looks like now Rosenhaus is trying to get through to this guy to get him in the building, but it's not going to bring back that money, and it's not going to get the stop of Josh Allen on third down there. So we'll see what happens with that situation. But based on that reporting, it feels like it's something that's going to be happening very soon. Kevin Stefanski, the Browns head coach, we talked about on the Sunday flagship show, Sessdog. We talked about how at a certain point that Stefanski has to be held accountable as well. If Deshaun Watson continues to play despite being, by almost any metric, the worst quarterback in the league, that led to some difficult questions in his Monday presser, specifically whether Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns, is forcing him to keep starting the high-paid, controversial quarterback.
The prevailing narrative still seems to be that everyone thinks that Jimmy Haslam is forcing you to play Deshaun Watson. So I guess I just want to throw it out there again and ask, how is this decision made, and is there any truth to that whatsoever?
Well, as you know, Mary Kay, I don't get caught up in narratives, but we have a good dialogue with myself, Andrew, ownership about all things that have to do with this team. They've been nothing but supportive, and any decision when it comes to football is my decision.
Mark, I'll let you take this. He said earlier in the press conference that Deshaun gives us the best chance to win, which is pretty scathing indictment of Jameis Winston. Oh, by the way.
Well, a scathing indictment of Earth. There was a clip I saw the other day from last autumn where Stefanski is enthusiastically sprinting down the sideline, tracking an incredible Joe Flacco touchdown bomb down the field that brought the Browns to victory. And so here we are now, and this is nonsensical. He looks like he's been kidnapped by Hezbollah, and that's just how he looks in these press conferences. And we all get that something incorrect, something fishy, something suspicious is occurring, and it's too impossible to break down at this point. But I will say that for years and years, just based on my Browns fandom, I've tracked and been close to other Browns fans who are whether the journalists or podcasters or budding journalists, or they all had this undying optimism that the fog of war that is the Cleveland Browns, and we just talked about another team that's in the same boat, that there would be a way out of it, that something great would come. And I'm watching so many of them losing hope. They're losing hope. And it's not just hope, it's apathy. It's the team is not good or bad. It's not just that. It's I don't care anymore. I want out. I want to go rake my leaves. I want to go eat leaves. I want to go climb into a tree.
How about you come to the Baja Cantina?
Well, I think that's sounding like the best option for so many individuals at this point. So yeah, it could be a big crowd there. Could be that.
Could be. So we shall see if this just continues. It's becoming a fascinating situation in terms of how much longer can Kevin Stefanski say that guy gives him the best chance to win. Unbelievable. Speaking of guys that give a team their best chance, well, Tua actually does give his team the best chance to win. The Dolphins quarterback, who's been out now for about a month after sustaining another head injury on Thursday Night Football. Everyone wants to know, do the Dolphins get Tua back this season? What is the timeline? And Miami has been, obviously has not been sharing much in terms of what that is. Mike McDaniel, the head coach, was asked about Tua and whether or not he would play again this season. Here's what he had to say on Monday.
As far as timelines go, I know he's not playing this week, and I do expect to see him playing football in 2024. But where that is exactly, we'll let the process continue, since we still have time before he even could entertain anything.
All right, that all checks out. And as we said, even though the report came out, Mark, a couple weeks ago that the NFL was not involved in this in any way, this is a big issue, and Tua is the face of brain injuries in the NFL right now, and the Dolphins and the league are going to handle this carefully. So I don't know. We'll see what that means. But McDaniel's saying that he'll be back, or believes he'll be back. For Dolphins fans, if you could hold the fort and just hang around, that division is obviously not as fearsome as perhaps we thought. The Patriots stink. The Jets aren't much better. The Bills are obviously an imperfect machine. So the Dolphins, if they could just hang around, maybe they get Tua back, and most importantly, Tua can stay healthy. Maybe they still have playoff aspirations this year.
I mean, maybe. Like, they're almost a team in this like specific situation. I'd really track their win-loss record on a week-to-week basis, because at one point, does it not make sense to do this with this human being? Like, and there seems to be like, you guys don't get it. He wants to come back. He wants to play. This is something he wants to do. Okay, well, he's part of this, but at some point the Dolphins don't make a lot of sense to me, and I don't know why you put this human being back in this situation. But that's just more my personal feeling versus like a football team can operate the way they want, but it's the same way I feel about Haason Reddick. It's like, at what point do you not sign Haason Reddick if the Jets are, falling off a cliff? Like, when do you not worry about this stuff? Like, we're getting there. Like, we're almost in November. So at what point do these things not make sense? The Dolphins, to me, are not a playoff team. And if they are, they're like a fringe playoff team. So, like, do we just let him go into next year and see where we are with this person? It's one of the more complex injury situations that we've dealt with in the last 5 years, because it's some of the more dynamically gruesome head injuries have happened to this one person.
Dynamically gruesome head injury. Wow.
You know what I mean, though? Just,
no, I know what you mean.
It stands out.
I've never heard those words put together.
No, it just stands out differently to me than any other quarterback on this front. And so I don't know what the rush is. What's the rush here?
The rush is the Dolphins internally want to save their season, because it's been depressing as hell with Skylar Thompson and, insert quarterback here trying to hold down the fort. Okay, finally, injury news. Aidan Hutchinson, terrible. Suffers that gnarly broken leg, tibia, fibula, and he has the emergency surgery. I think we mentioned that it was a compound fracture on Sunday. That was a tweet that turned out not to be true. Apologies. So that is not a compound fracture, but it was a nasty fracture. It was the leg flop, the whole thing. His season's obviously over. And yet Dan Campbell, trying to put a brave face on it, didn't rule out Aidan Hutchinson, whose leg was flopping on the field 24 hours ago, from, I guess, coming back this year. Here's Dan Campbell.
Look, it's 4 to 6 months. I would never count Hutch out, ever. So, yeah, probably, long road, but I would never count him out. And I would say if anybody can make it back, it'd be him.
Here's the easy math. It's October 14th. The Super Bowl is like February 13th or something like that. The Lions internally, best case scenario, he's playing in the Super Bowl on some level, on some snap count, in a miracle scenario. So don't get your hopes up that he'll be ready for the stretch run. This was a terrible injury, and Adam Schefter reported on Monday that the Lions plan to seek edge depth via trade without mortgaging their future. So We'll see. We mentioned Haason Reddick at the top of the news. He actually would make sense. But will the Lions feel like they need to bring somebody in? There's no replacing Hutchinson, but maybe someone that can, fill in admirably will be enough to keep them on the Super Bowl path.
I heard a few whispers out there, or theories that, like, if you really wanted to target a team like the Browns, like, you could sell a lot to get a Myles Garrett type figure. That feels impossible to me. But
that also would be the opposite of what Schefter reported. Not that is the be all end all, but they're not going to make a massive trade here. They're just looking for somebody to hold down the fort, as it were.
I guess not. But like that, if anything, that was one of their positional question marks beyond Hutchinson. So like I don't think you get to the Super Bowl without being able to, like, basically handle hassle and create nuisance for another quarterback. Like, that's the kind of team they need to be. And so they've got to address it somehow. There's ways to do it, but I think you do sell high if you need to. Get someone to make a difference. Like that, he was literally one of their I think he was top 3 key player for them.
All right. That's what's happening in the news. All right. This is the Monday Night Recap, and coming up on Wednesday, Connor Orr in the building. We'll have a nice, fun time with Connor, as we always will. We'll preview the Broncos at Saints TNF matchup, Week 7, Mark. Isn't it crazy how quickly things roll on in the NFL?
Especially when you're at that we're at that Mexican happy hour, going through our ups and downs. Like, the hours pass.
What is time when you're on your second pitcher of sangria? On Thursday, of course, we have the Week 7 preview show with Jordan and Mike, the TNF recap later that night. And finally, of course, the Sunday night flagship with Connor Orr. That's what's coming up. A reminder, the Patreon. Sign up for the Patreon. We got fun stuff over on the Patreon. You got our Friday morning draft show, where we pick the games that we cover on Sunday. You have the Throwback Podcast, the exclusive home of the Throwback Podcast with Bob and I. You have Marc Sessler and Jason Zumwalt, Rolling Thunder, every month. You have the Sessler newsletter, which, Mark, I know you just sent that last one out, but it's time to start getting the new one cranked up. Get some ideas out there, you know?
Been working on it, yep. Yes.
And don't ask me for help, because I won't give you any. That's your assignment.
No,
I'm on a journey.
Like,
I'm on a new journey.
I want you to
Mark.
enjoy it. I want you to enjoy it from a consumer.
And I loved it. I love Newsletter 1 so much so that I can't wait for you to get cracking on Newsletter 2 so I can enjoy that one.
I'm on it.
All right, beautiful. And that's it. Oh, and where are we at? Justin, hashtag 48.4. Obviously, I'm not saying we're going to get there. Rome wasn't built in a day, but we should be pushing people to, if you're a listener of the show, we don't even need you to watch every show on YouTube, but if you could just go to where, Justin?
youtube.com/@heedthecallpod. Yes, the @ symbol is part of that URL. We are just north of 14,100 subscribers as of this recording. We are slowly making progress, but still a long ways to go to get to that 48.4.
Yeah, let's cut into that deficit as we get toward our main goal. And thank you to everybody for following along. We're on a break. This is not the end of something. It's just a pause button, Mark. That's all it is.
That's all it is.
We were on a break! We were on a break! We were on a break.
Exactly. Ross had it right. Until next time, heed the call.